There's these 6 words that have invaded my soul in a way that no matter what it is that I'm doing, I am just working from each one of these words, and they are almost like each one of them have a universe, and I feel that if I can bring them into every space and help people fully interact with these 6 words, I think they would maximize their ability to express their humanity. The 6 words are help humans walk life hiding less. Before we dive into it, when I was thinking about these words, there was a picture of when I was younger that came to mind, and it was the fact that at home we could only afford PBS Kids, and PBS Kids was a channel that had decent cartoons, but it didn't have the best cartoons. And I would hear my friends at school talk about cartoons like the Looney Tunes, Disney cartoons, SpongeBob SquarePants. And it wasn't until those days that I got to go to my aunt's house and watch cartoons with my cousin, and they had DirecTV. And I don't know if you know what DirecTV is, but it's actually a cable company. And this cable company, they had the plan that had all of the cartoons. And so when I would go hang out with my cousin, it was almost like I had access to this universe of cartoons that I didn't otherwise. And I remember there was one specific show that I would just be captivated by, and I would lose myself just in front of the TV trying to solve this problem that this cartoon show would show us for 30 minutes. And the show was Scooby-Doo. I don't know if you've seen this show, but this show is a dog and a group of friends, and they're just trying to solve a mystery. And so for 30 minutes, there's this fight between good and evil, and we're trying to figure out who is this evil. And if you watch it long enough, you know that there's always somebody underneath the mask. And so Scooby and Shaggy and Belma, and I don't remember the name of the other guys, but they would just go on this journey. And by the end, sometimes you could predict who was underneath the mask, and sometimes they would just catch you by surprise. But what was really interesting was that there was a sub-narrative that I missed when I was young. And it was the fact that it wasn't necessarily that good always be evil. It was the fact that these group of people and a dog who didn't feel the need to wear a mask would always have the odds in their favor. And I wonder what that looks like in our everyday episodes of life. What it would look like if we actually figured out how to walk life hiding less. In other words, how to walk life without wearing a mask. For so long, I thought that it was a battle between good and evil and finding the courage to just go and fight evil. And I wonder if what we actually need courage for is to step into every episode of our life without wearing a mask. And that makes me think of today, what is it that I do on my everyday that demands that I wear a mask? And mask seems intimidating, but what I really mean by that is when we go into our regular days, what are the roles that we need to play? For example, I'm a soccer coach, and so I need to put the mask of a soccer coach every time that I'm with my players. I am a brother, so I need the mask of a brother, or the uniform of a brother, or the persona of a brother. I am a husband, so I need to play the role as a husband. We play so many roles throughout our everyday that sometimes we forget that there's always a human underneath all the costumes that we play throughout the day. When we get home and our day is over, there's a human that we get to interact with again. And I wonder if the jobs that we do, our businesses or our relationships, would actually benefit not so much from the mask or the uniform that we put on, but the human underneath. This makes me wonder if when I have kids, if I'm better off with my kids experiencing Andres than experiencing a parent. I wonder if my athlete's development will be maximized if they have a time with Andres versus just a time with their coach. I wonder if this is why there's so much violence around the world, in the Middle East, in politics, in sports arenas, and even just at home. What if the invitation wasn't to do our roles better, but to bring our humanity into them? When we forget that it's not just a son or a father, it's not just a daughter and a mother, and it's not just a husband or a wife, but it's human and human trying to interact and do the best possible for each other. It's almost as if these labels and this status and our job title and our careers actually create separation. And it's almost as if the separation becomes a weapon to come at each other. I'm convinced that if we actually work in the other way and bring the humanity into our roles, we're actually going to create the healthiest versions of us. And I know it's not sexy to say that create the healthiest versions is what we look for, but in order to become the best version of ourselves, we have to hit the healthiest versions of ourselves. And in order to get to the healthiest versions of ourselves, we have to get to the most authentic versions of ourselves. When you go back to these 6 words that have invaded my soul: help humans walk life hiding less. It feels to me as if we've forgotten who we actually are. In the athletic world, I see it so often when the player only thinks that they are a player. When the player wakes up in the morning and the first role that they think they are, or the first identity that they see themselves as, is a soccer player or a football player or a basketball player or whatever sport they may play. And they walk through the day with this finite identity, and they forget that there's a human underneath this that is longing to be brought out. I want to dive into each word for a second. And over the next few weeks, we'll talk about each one of them, but I'll just give you a little bit of what each one of them represents for me and how these 6 universes in which I feel we're going to maximize our human experience. So let's start with help. Your ability to ask for help actually reveals your potential. Humans, it's the human underneath that actually informs every role that is at the surface. Walk has to do with pace, and your pace actually reveals your self-worth. Life. This one's one of my favorites because life is not just the material world. Life is not just what we can touch, see, taste, hear, or smell. There's so much more texture to life, and if we miss that, we are actually missing out on life. So life is just beyond the material. Hiding. This is one of the most intimidating ones. And the only thing that really comes along with hiding is exhaustion. There's no more exhausting practice to the human than to hide. And then less. Anytime that there is less of anything, there is more of you. And so I want to invite you to the 6-word journey. Help humans walk life hiding less. I'm so excited because I feel that this is more than language. We use language because it's the way that we communicate. But when we fully tap into these 6 words, we're going to dismantle who we are not, and we're going to activate the version of us that we didn't even know was there. And I'm convinced that the most authentic version of us is just an explosion of beauty and love. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you. And not only for you to walk hiding less, but for you to also help others walk life hiding less.